Hello everyone and welcome to another book review. This one will be for an audiobook that I listened to, and that is Silverswift by Natalie Lloyd. Honestly, I've read, in my opinion, much better middle grades. I gave it 2 stars. It just, I don't know. It just fell way flat for me. So this is one, I can't even remember the main character's name, other than that the grandma called her Firebird. And she was, I believe, 11. And I don't know, it was just, so anyway, the main character, I'm just going to call her Firebird, gets a letter from her grandma. She lives in, I don't even know where. I can't remember. I know they mentioned it once or twice, but I can't remember. Anyway, she lives in kind of like an apartment with her mother, and she received a letter from her grandmother saying that her grandmother needed her. They have one less adventure because the grandmother's losing her eyesight. But don't tell the mother the exact reason, because the mother would not be happy, would not let the granddaughter go see the grandmother if that was the reason. And this takes place around Christmas time. So I just felt like there was like no character development and not really any major plot development. So it just was kind of like meh. So I don't know. So anyway, she ends up going, this Firebird, the main character, ends up going to be with her grandma, and they go on this adventure. I use quotes because it's just like they were going from point A to point B, and they're just, I mean, there was a storm going on, and they're just kind of walking on this island, and that's the extent of the adventure, is going from the grandmother's house to this cove where supposedly there are mermaids or sirens, whatever you want to call them. I've always thought of them as 2 separate beings, that a mermaid is different than a siren, but in this book they are the same thing, and it's the mermaid and siren are pretty much interchangeable. So anyway, so they're just going to this, trying to find this cove where these mermaids come once a year and sing, and or these sirens, and that's it. And it's just walking. Yeah. I mean, the ending was okay. I don't know. It just, I mean, everything was tied up, so you can definitely tell it is a standalone. But that's, I don't know. I mean, that's pretty much it. You do find this one thing out that you, at least that I kind of suspected, and I can't say what it is because it's a major spoiler, but it was just like, it was just okay. It's the only way I knew that it took place around Christmas and New Year's Eve is because those holidays were mentioned. There was no, it was like, there was not really any description of anything. There was no description of clothing. There was no description of, like, the grandma's hair was gray. That's about it. There was a golf cart. It started to rain. So there was not really any description. It was just very flat. I feel like it was written more for the younger end of middle grade. So maybe if someone's just wanting to start getting into middle grade books, then it might be a good starting point to see if they like it. It's fantasy, but the only fantasy element is that mermaids existed. I don't even really want to say there's 2 points of views in this book. Most of the point of view, well, it's probably about 50-50. One is that it takes place from the main character's point of view, who again is 11. Her nickname is Firebird. don't remember her actual name. The other one is from the grandmother's point of view, except it's not really her point of view. It's the grandmother just telling the story of the mermaids, specifically the mermaid of Silverswift, who kept a dagger at her hip. Yeah, so now, okay, so I will say this too, some of it does take place from Silverswift's point of view. So you hear the grandmother telling the story, and then sometimes it does switch to the actual mermaid, Silverswift, and her interaction with her mother and things like that. So, you know, that was fine. I generally like, because I have this fear of like big bodies of water where I can't see all the way to the bottom, so I don't know what animals are there, if there's something poisonous I'm going to step on or swim into, a shark, I don't know. I just have this fear of when I can't see the bottom. So I generally like stories that do take place over large bodies of water and in the ocean. I love the smell of the ocean, that saltiness, briny, whatever, however you want to describe it, smell. And I like the sound of the ocean, and I do like seeing images of the ocean because I think it's magnificent and it's beautiful. Now, so I do like reading stories because I just have this fear. I am not going to go into it, so I kind of live through that, overcome that fear by reading these books. So I enjoyed that aspect when it took place there. But again, it was just very, even when it came to Silverswift's point of view, if that's what you want to call it, really the only thing is like the sound of the scales on a rock, of their fins on the rocks, and what the floor looked like her Silverswift's bedroom floor. So there was very little description. It was like, you know what it's like, I think this is the best description. It was like, yeah, I was listening to a book, but it felt like if I was watching a movie, there would be no images on the screen. It would just be a black screen and people just talking. And there would be no description of the surroundings, no description of how someone looked, no description of it, pretty much anything. Like, hey, there's a golf cart. Hey, there's a big tree. Hey, there's this. Hey, we hear this sound. And that's pretty much it. So I do think, again, this is a middle grade. It's a fantasy. I think this is, again, geared towards the younger end of middle grade. I think that age bracket might enjoy it, depending on if they like fantasy or not, especially mermaids. And you would really need to be interested in a book about mermaids because that's a heavy part of the book. And again, if it's like, I kind of almost want to say, yes, it's the younger end of middle grade, but maybe from those that are wanting to transition from children's books into a genuine middle grade book. And so it'd be kind of like that kind of bridging point, just because there is really no description or anything like that. So it is very simple. The narrators, I think there were at least 2 narrators. They did fine. Not the best audiobook I've ever listened to, but again, it's a middle grade, so it was fine. Excuse me. So 2 stars. I don't ever plan on listening to it again. I have a cousin who I think might enjoy listening to that, but I don't think they do. Or my cousin's daughter, I don't think they do Audible. So anyway, so that's it for this review. So again, that's Silverswift by Natalie Lloyd. Yeah, I mean, that's really all I have to say about that one. So until next time, stay true to yourself and enjoy a good book, and I'll talk to you later.